Oh, we're in the house here Sunday, week 13 NFL action. Your boy Donnie Wrights out along with Tom Vecchio here. We got about 45 minutes to get you caught up on everything you need to know for week 13 action, injury information, best prop bets, some sides to look at, and weather condition and injuries today. Tommy, how we feeling?
I'm feeling good. We're off to a crazy start this week with four underdogs, not just covering, but winning outright. I don't know how much of that continues today, but we also have some weather to deal with today, which will certainly impact things. I'm feeling good about this week's slate.
Yeah, let's get after it and have some fun with this stuff. So let's get the stuff popped up on the screen so the people can see it right here and start to get in on some of this nice, tasty action. Let me just switch one thing around here. There we go. All right, game number one we'll talk about today, Tom. Houston and Indy. Interesting game here. We see the numbers opening up at 3.5 here at FanDuel. You take a look at the rest of the lines, 3 all the way across. Here's the interesting part about this game. C.J. Stroud's coming back. Is he going to have any rust being their starting quarterback? We know their defense is awesome. Petrie's even coming back into this game, which missed that game, that charm game they had against Buffalo.
Oh, yeah.
But Daniel Jones has a broken leg, Tom, where they're actively saying he can't go horizontally, only he can go north and south. What are we doing here?
Yeah, I grabbed the Texans at 4.5 earlier in the week when that Daniel Jones news came out. And I was like, listen, with how good this Texans defense is, and listen, even without this Daniel Jones injury, if you look back over some of the games, the recent games for Daniel Jones, just look at the game logs, look at the tape, whatever you want to do, he's not the same quarterback he was weeks 1 through 6, 1 through 7, 1 through 8, whatever it is. Like, there's a few more mistakes. And maybe the leg issue, the calf, the fibula, whatever it is playing a part in that. But he's taking a few more sacks, a few more fumbles, a few more picks, and giving extra opportunities or chances for high event outcomes to a defense like the Texans is an extreme downside potential for Daniel Jones. So if you give me the Texans getting points, I will take that time and time again. And I think this has to be a big Jonathan Taylor game, right? Where this is going to be risk aversion for the Colts. They cannot allow Daniel Jones to drop back 35 times against his pass rush. Jonathan Taylor has to carry the load on offense today.
It's very interesting that you see this where it's like, okay, popped up on the report. They're calling like a calf, and they say, oh, no, it's just going to be, it's a tibia at this point. And then we're finding out it's a fractured leg, but he should be fine. And we're not going to hold back any restrictions, as Steichen says. But then he goes like, well, he can't really run side to side. Like maybe you can get away with that against a really bad defense. Houston is going to pin their ears back and come. And it does feel like it's a Jonathan Taylor game, but Jonathan Taylor was sort of stymied a bit last time we saw him against the Kansas City Chiefs. So those boxes are going to be loaded. And what do we like about Daniel Jones? Sometimes he's a mobile quarterback that can make some plays and get out of the pocket. If he can't do that, what good is Daniel Jones? So for me, Tom, I don't have any plays in this game, but I do like Houston as a side. But from a prop betting perspective today, got a little nervous with C.J. Stroud. Still a decent defense for Indy. I think he might be a little bit rusty. But if I say to myself, what do I want out of that offense for Indianapolis? Like Jonathan Taylor, 85.5, I don't really want that. Like, oh, he can get 100. Yes, he can if he carries the ball 20-plus times, which he might today. But I had nothing in the way of prop perspectives, but I do have that lean towards Houston here, Tom.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like I said, I'm on Houston 4.5 from earlier in the week. I will say that Stroud, Collins, and Higgins are all very popular in DFS today. If anyone's playing that. So there's some popularity among them just because their salaries and whatnot. But I'm hesitant on this game overall. I think you lean Texans. You can lean on the under. It is a divisional game. It's actually a very important divisional game considering the Texans just won last week. So I'm not expecting a whole ton of points.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of huge numbers either. Like Nico Collins, 65.5. That's not a bad number for him. Ty Warren, 49.5. Now also understand this, Tom. The way for me, if I said, well, Donnie, which way do you want to take the Houston Texans? I get a little bit nervous because that's a really good defensive backfield now with the addition of Sauce Gardner. Saying, okay, well, you don't have to get 100 yards. You can get a little bit less. But doesn't it feel, for me, at least, like the 52.5 for Woody Marks, like he is going to get 15 carries in the backfield. I think he can get that number.
I do too. And again, I think this is a ground game. I really is. Like, they're not going to be dropping Daniel Jones back. Stroud is back for the first time. And again, like we're week 13 in a divisional game where like the Colts have been leaking oil. Like they are not the same team they once were. Like the division is still up for grabs. And there's like a path to the Colts not even making the playoffs at this point. So, the Texans, the Jags have a winnable matchup today. If the Texans grab this win, this is not a good spot for the Colts.
No, it's not. Let's get to the next game here, Tom. Arizona and Tampa Bay. Jacoby Brissett's going to go up against Baker Mayfield, one of the guys that we probably wouldn't think would play this week. And he's such a tough guy, but that is going to hurt the passing game. So taking a look, Tom, 5.5's at the opening number, as we see here with FanDuel. They're down to 3.5 across the board. I don't love this game from a side perspective because I don't know what I'm getting out of Baker Mayfield. Total's 44 and a half time, but you know what I did play? A look at the Tampa Bay team rushing props here, which comes in around 100.5 yards. Bucky Irvin's coming back. Tucker looks really good so far this season, and you still have Rachaad White on that team. That's 3 running backs. I couldn't pinpoint who was going to get most of the carry, but as I say that, let me just flip it over here, and I'm going to take a look at these props as I throw it to you here in just a second. Let me go to the running game here, Tom, because that's what I want to ask you first, and it's from a Tampa perspective. Bucky, 40.5. Sean Tucker, 30.5. Rachaad White, 13.5. To me, I look at Sean Tucker and say, he's going to get 6+ carries. He will get 30.5 yards. Am I wrong?
No, I was actually looking at Sean Tucker just before, I logged in. Like, I see some projections for him, up in the mid to upper 30s. And I know it's like 36
a lot of
the
books too, Tom, got him like 33, 34 yards. I think FanDuel might be the lowest at 30.
Yeah, at 30. So that's why I was looking at Tucker there. And again, like the way I immediately turned to this game is what are Baker props and then what are the running props? Because Bucky's back, but is he going to be in a full capacity?
Correct.
When in reality, he can be somewhat effective, but they also have 2 other backs that they can go to.
Yes.
So Sean Tucker, I certainly like over 30.5. And then I was looking at the Baker props. I was talking with, Joe and Brady over the past 2 days doing shows with them.
Yeah.
Where, listen, Baker's prop is 32.5 attempts. If Baker has to throw the ball 35 times, I think that is a huge, huge mistake. Now, granted, Donnie, his issue is a left shoulder, his non-throwing shoulder, an AC joint. So it's not his throwing shoulder. We have to understand that. But I'm playing him under 32.5 pass attempts. I truly believe if Baker goes over 32.5 pass attempts, something went wrong. And I think the Cardinals are live to win. So Sean Tucker over, Baker under on attempts.
How about this, Tom? Because, again, if we're looking to try to correlate Baker, like the one play where he left the game was, let me wind up and throw it, which means you have to open up that whole breastplate, get that torque on it, and that clearly hurt him. Are we looking at maybe instead of like the yardage props, like let's just from a Tampa side, right? Egbuka 60.5, Godwin 29.5, which are such low numbers here. Are you looking more of just if Baker has, let's just say 15 completions, there's short targets here? Because I can't see them. 7-step drop for Baker today doesn't make any sense for me, right?
No, it doesn't. It would have to be quick outs.
Yes.
The fact that K. Dotton's at 3.5 receptions, at least that I'm seeing on FanDuel, is crazy.
Yeah.
I would rather play K. Dotton 2.5 with juice, like 2.5 minus 130, minus 140. I would play that. The 3.5 is way too much. Chris Godwin looks like a shell of himself. He's just does not have any explosiveness. Emeka Egbuka, I'm a huge fan of, but kind of his role has been somewhat of a downfield target, which I just don't think is going to be in the game plan today. So there's no faith I have in the receiving props, at least from a Tampa perspective. Arizona's a different story because we're going to be seeing a ton of volume from Jacoby Brissett still.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because, I like to double up touchdown markets, and the touchdown market is fantastic for this game. But it's almost like do I take Bucky Irving plus 175? They're going to get him in the mix, and Sean Tucker plus 250. If I had to do a double up in this game, Tom, that's the way I would go. Because I actually like Sean Tucker plus 250. I don't know if you're giving Bucky Irving the ball in the goal line at the 1, but you probably would give it to Tucker. I don't know about the wide receiving props again for a touchdown because I just don't know what I'm getting out of Baker Mayfield. It could be the ultimate rope-a-dope and he's just fine, or it's like, hey, you know what? We should have listened to the reports, and why would you bet a quarterback to throw, let's just say, 2 touchdowns that's injured? Any other things that you see from this side? Maybe an Arizona perspective? Everybody's always looking at McBride, but I just can't piecemeal this one together for me.
Yeah, Michael Wilson's been awesome. Like, Michael Wilson is now listen, Marv Harrison is back.
Yes.
Right. So looking at the Marv Harrison plays the
double up.
Marv Harris, I should say, the Michael Wilson production has come without Marv Harrison. But look at this. 15 targets, 18 targets, 118 yards, 185 yards for Michael Wilson in the past 2 games that Harrison has been out. There's the coach speak that we've heard from Gannon is insane about this. Michael Wilson is making plays. Marv Harrison hasn't been consistent even prior to the appendectomy that he had. I like Michael Wilson, 52.5 as a line he should be get to, and everyone is throwing on the Bucs as late. No one can run on them ever, but everyone's throwing all over the Bucs. I think this is a big game for Jacoby and Michael Wilson.
Yeah, and you take a look at the double up from the wideouts there, or at least pass catchers. McBride plus 135, Michael Wilson plus 230. It's funny, too, because Michael Wilson lost in the sauce when Kyler Murray is there. Not with Jacoby, man. The dude's a big dude that can get some wheels out there, and he's throwing him the football. It's kind of funny how that offense is like a buy on offense no matter who's playing because Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback. It's kind of crazy.
I will say the 37.5 attempt market for Jacoby Brissett is insane. When we're looking at these recent games from him, I know 47, 57, 44, 37.5 lines, one of the highest I've ever seen.
By the way, let's get to this next one here, Tom. Looking at Jacksonville and Tennessee. Jacksonville get a little bit healthy at the wide receiver position today. Brian Thomas Jr. will be back. The line opened up, though, at 7. Dipped to 5.5 at FanDuel, which it still sits now, but you're seeing some 6s come back to the marketplace. And the total here opened up at 41.5, now up to 42.5. When I look at that Jacksonville offense, Tom, like the tight end, like the quarterback, like the 2 running backs, and like the wide receiving core, Tennessee is just... pick your poison on who you want. Like, how do they score? Oh, pick six better be, or a kick return. I just don't have any faith in Tennessee, which they do bring down the total in that game. Not because I don't think Jacksonville can score. They've actually been pretty good on offense the past couple weeks. I don't know what I'm getting out of Tennessee. I think Jacksonville wins, but obviously I'm not going to lay that money. Heavy public favorite, road team, opened up at 7. It's a little bit less than that point, but I do think Jacksonville does score today. I like Jacksonville, but not enough to take them around the 6 number.
Yeah, that 6 number as a road team is kind of crazy. And this is like the conversation that I always have is like, if this game were in Jacksonville, this would be 7.5 or 8. Would you be wanting to lay? Like, we have to account for home field. Like, so if it was in Jacksonville, it'd be like 7.5 points. Would you want to lay 7.5 with the Jags? No, people would be like, just give me the Titans just because I'm not laying 7.5 with a mistake-prone Trevor Lawrence on the other side. So the Jags winning this game by a field goal, I think, is very possible. So I do not want to lay the 5.5. The question becomes is, how do they get Brian Thomas, who has been inconsistent thus far? How do they get him re-involved in the offense when, frankly, Parker Washington has been super solid. Brenton Strange came back last week. He was solid. How much do they force feed some of these different guys? Because Brian Thomas at 44.5, his yardage prop, is so low considering the production he put up last season.
I like him. I do like him. And if I'm looking at the double up here, touchdown market, I go right to the running backs because one of those guys is scoring. Etienne's plus money, and then Bashal Tootin is plus 175. They're going to get a touchdown on the ground. And by the way, it doesn't even have to be on the ground. Travis Etienne, very effective there. Not so much for Tootin out of the backfield catching the football. I like that as a double up. But you're right about this, though. You look at the receiving props. Brian Thomas Jr. might have been my favorite wide receiver down the stretch last year to bet. Big play, short play, touchdowns, doesn't matter. He was always the focal point. Then it almost looks like at times this year before the injury, disinterested in football. But I do like the fact that they beefed up. Like Parker Washington is a decent outlet. Brenton Strange, as we said, decent outlet. Jacoby Myers is a decent outlet. Now you throw Brian Thomas back in. I think they're able to move the football. But I think you're right about this. This is one of those alts that we look at saying, all right, Brian Thomas might catch 22 yards versus the passes. Oh, well. But also, you can see 6 for 76 and a touchdown as well at the same side.
And this is a situation where it's like, and this is a conversation we've had for years where it's like, we have 4 players who are all within 10 yards of each other in terms of their receptions, 44, 40, 36, 36. Yeah. The books have no idea who's going to catch passes. So as I always say, I would play Thomas, Washington, and Strange. I would play all 3 of them to the over, and you just need 2 to come through. I don't know who it's going to go to. I just want to leave myself the outs because I don't want to pinpoint one player. I'd rather just play 3 and hope that 2 come through because the books have no idea. Yeah. That's why they're all so close. It's not like we have a JSN on this team and then it's all these other guys. It's just they're all here, and pick your poison. I'd rather pick 3.
Yeah, no doubt about it here. I do think Jacksonville moves the football today and wins. Just not comfortable with tanking it, but there are some numbers there. At the end of this game, you might look back and say, I can't believe I left that on the table. So we'll find out how this one plays out. Rams and Carolina, Tom. First thing I did this week was circle this game because you knew coming out of that primetime game, Horn had the concussion. On a short week, he's not playing. You should have known that by Monday or Tuesday right off the bat without them even saying it. And he's going to be down today. Mooring was suspended. They also lost another cornerback in that game against the 49ers. So now you're down to multiple starters in the secondary going up against a team that says, we are going to beat you down any way we want to, which includes Matthew Stafford trying to win an MVP. And we are the kings, Tom, of throwing the football on the 1-yard line for a quick touchdown to Devontae Adams. 9.5 to 10 in the marketplace, as we see right here. Totals 44.5 across the board, 45s at BetMGM and 365. I do think the Rams win this one going away, but I had to include the price points are horrible, though.
Yeah.
Like I had to use in a parlay Matthew Stafford to throw over 1.5 touchdown passes. He's like minus 220 to minus 250 for 2 touchdown passes. 3 is plus money, but 3 is always asking for a lot. I do think the Rams win this game and win in the air, Tom.
I could not agree more. The lines are not favorable, as to your point. It's plus 144 for Stafford for over 2.5, at least right now on FanDuel. The one thing I'll say is there are not many times I truly like a touchdown prop at this low of money, but Puka's around plus 110, plus 105.
Yep.
Listen, we know Devontae's the guy when they get inside the 5 or to the 1, to your point. But, man, getting Puka at plus money in this spot is almost too good to be true. So I played Puka in this spot. Stafford's been unbelievable. I think you could roll with him in some capacity. But frankly, this is just a game that the Rams I think they blow them out. They win by 14, whatever it is. They're just going to beat down all of these bad teams, and they're going to run up the score.
Yeah, and also a decent temperature today, 50 degrees in Charlotte, and a little bit of sprinkles to start the game, it looks like, Tom. But after that, light winds, shouldn't have any issues. Always the problem is, like, Stafford should throw for 260 against his team. But here's why I get nervous sometimes. That defense is so good for the Rams, Tom, that you get good field position, and Stafford goes 4 touchdown passes, 205 yards passing. Like, why didn't I just take the touchdown passes here? That's always the dilemma. Like, if you had a team that I think could answer back repeatedly, it's like, yeah, Stafford's going to throw 260 against that secondary. I don't know if he needs to. Like, Stafford feels like, I'm going to get the MVP by throwing for $175 and 3 touchdowns today. We blow out and I move forward. Like, I think he has a big day. I just don't know if he throws 260 because I don't know if he needs to.
There's a real scenario where he goes like 22 of 25 for 250 yards with 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns. What was that game in when they played in London or Berlin or whatever it was?
4 touchdowns, barely had any yards.
Right, he had like 4 touchdowns and 180 yards just because the defense is good. They're breaking off, big plays on the ground, wherever it is, and all of a sudden the offense is incredibly efficient. And also, he's not going to throw the ball too much. Like, he has 28 touchdowns and 2 picks.
Yeah.
So they're like, I think they want him to win the MVP, and they're just not going to put him at a risk.
Like, the one thing that maybe really pissed me off on the Monday night game, which I ended up getting Coker plus money at over 30 yards. I think he had finished like with 32 or 33, got on the late drive, was that the San Francisco 49ers just basically said, you know what, we're going to go 3 plays and 10.5 yards for every 3 plays and slow this game down repeatedly, which you didn't get a lot of opportunities. If I'm looking at the Rams in this game, Tom, let's call it correlation, 28 points for them. Carolina is not going to be able to say, let's just slow it down, Rico Dowdle, and the other team doesn't move it here. Who do we look at here? Because Tet's 58.5. I always like Tet. Had a big touchdown catch last week, had a couple drops, probably could have got his number, but didn't. They get 22.5. I like Coker 27.5. I think he gets there because I don't think in the fourth quarter we're still running the ball for Carolina, but I still don't have a clear optimism on which way I should go because how dominant. What are they giving up, Tom? 16.5 points a game? There's not a lot out there.
So Bryce Young was like super popular last Monday, coming off a 400-yard game against the Falcons. And, when we see all the receivers fail, it's obviously just because he had a terrible game. But to your point, I've said it time and time again, Tet should be the guy that they run the offense through. Yeah. And when they're in these negative run game scripts where they're down by, they're 10-point underdogs at home, Tet should be seeing 10 targets. The issue I have is that with Bryce Young, they literally do not throw the ball deep. They do not throw the ball deep. It's all these short checkdowns, and they're trying to protect and insulate Bryce Young from making mistakes, which obviously hasn't worked to this point. But Tet having fewer than 10 targets would be an objectively bad game plan. And if he has 10 targets, he should be able to get to 60 yards. It's that clear. It's that simple to me.
Like a $190 and again, Bryce Young starting to fall back. Remember that game? Hey, threw for 4+ yards and then goes right back in the can. It felt like in that last game. The 190 feels about right, but always, Tom, I like to look at this too. It's like if Bryce Young throws for 190 yards and Tet doesn't get 60, I don't know where we're getting the rest of these yards from. It's almost like you might as well just take Tet because Tet can get his 90 yards and Bryce Young can throw for 162 yards. Like we've seen that before.
It's terrible what they're doing on offense. It's like Tet or no, like Rico Dowdle went through those weeks where he had like 200 yards. Yes. And outside of that, it's been, okay, but I would just trust Tet before I trust Bryce Young. And frankly, we've seen Bryce Young bench before. We've seen him get hurt. We've seen Andy Dalton come in. And when Dalton comes in, he's just locked in on Tet to throw him the ball.
Yeah, seeing that some of these, again, DraftKings 10, BetMGM 10, Bet365 10 here. And again, looking at some of those weather conditions, a little drizzle to start the game around noon, which again, it starts at 1 o'clock, so it shouldn't be an issue. 49 degrees, 3-mile-an-hour, 4-mile-an-hour winds. Should be a pretty clean day there to throw that football. New Orleans and Miami, going through a little bit of rain here, Tom, I believe, pre-game, but supposed to be out of here by game time, but maybe a chance for some heavy rain, as it says at 1 o'clock to start these games. Warm temperatures in Miami. Why? Because it's Miami. 42.5, 41.5, depending on where you're shopping, and a total of 5.5. This game seems like it's too easy here for New Orleans. Like, for the Miami Dolphins. Coming off the bye, a little bit momentum at this point. Are we leaving out New Orleans and saying, well, Miami can't be this good? Because it's kind of interesting where we're sitting this game on less than a touchdown. FanDuel, let me just see where they opened up. 4.5 to 5.5 now during the week. So roughly 5.5, let's call it across the line here, Tom.
Yeah, this game is interesting because a lot of people were kind of pinpointing the Dolphins' schedule where after they didn't fire McDaniel, you're actually looking at their schedule and you're like, okay, they have this game against they win against the Bills, which obviously is a little bit surprising. They win versus Commanders overseas. Then they have the Saints off this bye, then the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be in a spot to all of a sudden be 6-7 and be pushing towards a wild card despite how bad their season has started? There's no Kamara on the Saints. Olave was questionable coming in. Olave is playing today, but the Saints are just clearly not at full health. Devin Neal is going to be their starting running back today. Is this just a spot for Achane and Waddle each to have 80-plus yards? We're going to see Achane have 90-plus yards and Waddle do his thing. I'm not saying I believe in the Dolphins, but this is a spot for them just to keep the ball rolling. I find it very unsettling. Am I really about to trust the Dolphins type of vibe to this game?
Yeah. How do you feel about Darren Waller in this game coming back? Is he instantly able to step in and perform? Because let me see what his latest number is. Touchdown prop is listed there at what? It is plus 210, and his receiving
prop is 25.
Now, what would you rather take, the over 25 or a touchdown for Waller?
I'd rather take a touchdown for him.
Yeah, seems like he's a red zone guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'd rather take a touchdown from him, and if it's just Waddle, Achane, they continue to mix in Malik Washington here and there. I'd rather just take him for a touchdown, and if he comes through, great. And if he doesn't, so be it. But I don't want to play him on the yards knowing that he's coming off an injury and he could be limited in some capacity.
Jets in Atlanta here up in the Meadowlands in our neck of the woods here, Tom. Take a look at some of these temperatures. Drizzle throughout the game, not too bad. Winds under 10 miles an hour, that's fine. Not really cold temperatures, but we'll see how that gets there in that mid-40s range. Kirk Cousins, who I can't stand as a quarterback. Tyrod Taylor, they did some decent things against Baltimore, but still end up losing that game by double digits, but did end up getting the cover. Atlanta, however, Tom, opened up at 1.5. They now sit at -3 across the board and 38.5. I didn't bet anything in this game, Tom, because you try to put your best foot forward as opposed to saying, let me just throw money away. But I got to tell you, man, the Jets are intriguing with some of their guys at wide receiver, aren't they today?
I knew you were going to bring up John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell. I just knew it. Where you're thinking, listen, the Falcons are terrible. Listen, I never want to lay 3 points with the Falcons.
Yeah.
So that's listen, if people are just saying, I'm not betting on the Falcons and just taking the Jets and I'm going to hold my nose and watch the game, I totally understand that. But laying with the Falcons, especially after the line has moved, as you said, 1.5 to 3, I would never lay 3 points. Now, listen, the Falcons win this game 20-10. Am I going to be shocked? No, but I'd rather just be on the non-Falcon side. But John Mechie and A.D. Mitchell have put up some at least serviceable games recently. And these are their 2 starting wide receivers now because Wilson is still out. That we have 2 starting wide receivers and they're both sub 40 yards. I know the expectation for the Jets is so low, but John Mechie, sign me up.
Look at that, Mechie. 16.5 longest, 80, 19.5. Now let me ask, because I always love these questions, Tom. You see 34.5 and 37.5 for both of these guys. Very doable. There'll be let's just say the Jets throw minimum 25 times today. They're going to be involved. They want to see these guys get involved because some of these guys can be big play threats. Would you take 34, 37.5, or just take their longest reception and say, their depth of target or the chance for them to get thrown deep is better? Because it seems to me, if you are going to get 3 catches, they're going to get this. If they're going to get 3 catches, one of them is going to be here, but I've been there before, Tom, where it's hey, let's just say Hollywood Brown. I had him to get his longest catch time over 12.5 yards. Got the 14-yarder the last week and then got a call back, which really pissed me off. But his number for the game was 19.5, and I thought the 12.5 was better. What did he have? A touchdown and 2 catches for 10 yards, which was 20, which put him over, and I lost. I didn't bet a touchdown. I didn't bet his over receiving. I bet his longest catch, and I was the only one that lost, and it was. I hate burning myself, but which way would you go? Total yardage for those 2 guys, or would you just feel more comfortable taking the longest catch?
John Mechie over, I would go 34.5. I would go with yards. Yeah. 6 receptions last week, 65 yards, 45 the week before. Yeah. He has at least some connect. And listen, A.D. Mitchell also had 7 targets last week in the game against Baltimore, so they both had 7. But he's got at least some repertoire with Tyrod Taylor. I would take the 34.5 for Mechie.
Now, Bijan, if we look at him today, because we think it's going to be lower scoring and the Jets are going to run away from everybody, which is always a favorite. Like when you're, a lot of times, Tom, you want to bet a running back prop. Like, oh, I want Rico Dowdle. You go, well, damn it, he's going to run the ball in the second half. Like, are they going to be down double digits? That's always a thing that goes into your head. But Bijan probably not going to get blown out by the Jets. 78.5 yards is his number. The Jets are decent against the run. But would you rather take the 17.5 carries at this point, figuring that he's going to be involved and might not bust? Now, granted, if he gets 18 carries and he stays under 78.5, that's crazy. But also, he could have 22 carries and, you know what, 69 yards because it was close and they're just running him into a brick wall.
Yeah, I think they're both interesting. His big play threat is obviously the most exciting. What's his longest reception? Let's see that. 13.5. That's pretty interesting if they're going to be doing these quick dump downs to him. But I don't mind his rushing attempts at all. 17.5 is totally fine.
These like longest rush, longest passing props and stuff like that. 15.5 longest rush for Bijan. Breece Hall, 14.5. Any looks there at the running back position for the Jets? Breece Hall in this, or is it just too much?
I think he's a very viable option today. I think his numbers are super accurate though. So therefore I don't have interest. Like I think he's the main option on offense, but we're not getting a discount on anything.
Look at that, Tom.
That's the issue.
Wideouts today, 320, 360.
I could never play that.
Woo! Come on, Tom. Give one for the home team. But from a side perspective, I do like the Jets. Not enough to bet them, though. Like, it's one of those times where you bet it, and it's like, it comes out a little mixed bag at the end of the day. But I do like the Jets in this game. I like the Jets too. 3. But the line is moving in Atlanta's direction. More money coming in on them. Line goes from 1.5 to 3. I don't think it's a blowout either way. Maybe the Jets can sort of maybe pull this one out. Okay. Let's get down to some fun today, Tom. San Francisco and Cleveland. We know Shedeur is going to start, but the big conditions here, the windy weather. Understand this. No precipitation in the forecast. I think it was out of here this morning. Every time I watch on TV, it looks like the wind's blowing incredibly hard and knocking down umbrellas. But I do get these calls from the press box like, hey, it doesn't look all too bad. We understand it's going to be swirling winds here, which makes field goal kicking tough. Are there angles to play for you? Because I actually like Cleveland with this weather at 5.5. Not the win, Tom. I just think it's going to be in the fourth quarter, I have a chance to cover the spread. 5.5 is a total. San Francisco does look good, but this is a different animal in defense in Cleveland. And you do have Sanders at quarterback, which I don't know if the game plan today is open it up, throw it 30 times in the wind. I think Cleveland could keep this close. Am I wrong?
No, and it would be because of their defense. Like they're leaning on their defense at home. A 35.5 total is obviously insanely low for today's NFL. But, this would be a game where how does Cleveland win this game? They don't win it via Sanders. Like 147 yards is insanely low. 27.5 attempts is also, now granted, both quarterbacks are 27.5, but it would be, it would be Quinshon Judkins having a big game, and it would be relying on the run game and the defense to keep things close. And, it's like determined like the NBA is like, they want to make, muck it up, make it a rock fight. Like they want to slow the game down, but like that's how Cleveland wins this game. They would never win this in a shootout if conditions were perfect.
If I look at this bet, Tom, because I know Shedeur Sanders wasn't accurate, let's just say, in the past 2 games. But if I look at his passer completion number, Tom, for a full 4 quarters at 13.5, which means he needs 14. And you say, well, Donnie, why would you do that when it's windy? Well, I look at it the opposite way, Tom. This means we're targeting intermediate routes, right? Dump off to the running back, dump offs to the tight end. Like you can theoretically say, okay, first drive, 3 and out, but he had 2 pass completions because they were for 2 yards and 4 yards, just dump offs. I actually like that, windy conditions or not, 14 completions, because I think it stays short, Tom. That's where I would like to go.
It has to be. And what we saw last week with that, what was it, that pass to Dylan Sampson, the running back who ran for like 60 yards, that's going to be the game plan. And whether or not he breaks one off is really not of a concern when you're betting on completions, but you just want those quick, easy, move the ball, pick up first downs, because that's what they have to do. Like they can't go punch for punch offensively versus the 49ers, just from a skill perspective. Like there's just way too much skill on the 49ers that they have to make this game as simple as possible. I don't mind the 14 look.
Let me talk to you about this, Tom, because, again, somebody's going to have to catch passes. Like, it's not going to be doomsday where both teams throw for 38 yards. Are we getting set up right here on Christian McCaffrey at only 36.5 figure, and it's going to be a short game? Like, usually you see McCaffrey with really good conditions, mid-40s in that range, even close to 50 yards receiving.
He's
Does
good.
this not feel like a setup right here that, yes, we know Cleveland knows they want to get him the football and Cleveland is good, but in a game where I don't know if we're pushing the football downfield, why does that not feel like a steal at 36.5 receiving yards for McCaffrey?
I'll say this: there were times earlier this year when I spoke with you on shows where I bet McCaffrey over 50.5 receiving yards,
Yeah.
and it cashed. The fact that we're getting a 36, let's just see this: 53, 40, 66, 67, 43.
Yeah.
He
I
has
think we're
never
getting
been.
set up.
His low this season is
Yeah.
40 receiving yards.
Yep. I think we're getting set up on this one here. And
I mean,
also, we had a look at Ricky Pearsall in the last game. And
Killing me.
sometimes when the grading comes out, it's like, okay, don't cash your ticket, right? I look at that and say to myself, no, the targets where they're deep, just bad balls and, good plays by the defenders. This is one of those games for Ricky Pearsall, 27.5, Tom, because you always like to say, he's their deep threat guy. This ain't a deep threat day. And you
No,
might
it's
look at
not.
27.5 and say, well, how's he getting it, Tom? Rocket screen where he can break it because he's fast? I actually would rather have Juwan Jennings in this game at 35.5 than Ricky Pearsall at 27.5. He's more of that big body intermediate guy. I think he gets the yards today.
He does. Like Ricky Pearsall had a deep catch, but Purdy threw it for an interception. Like
Correct.
the one at the goal line
Touchdown.
last week
Yeah.
was for Pearsall.
Yep.
But Juwan Jennings would be a guy. I'll say this: CMC's receiving yards on DK is 39.5.
Oof, good.
So there's some market discrepancy out there for CMC, but the 36.5 feels like he's never not had 40 yards this year.
Yes. Yeah. That's why I say, because when we look at lines, Tom and I have been doing this a long time. I see the 36.5, and they were begging you to take that to the over. But sometimes, he had 70 yards receiving today. That's what he's supposed to do. But I see that number, and it sort of flags. Like, I would almost feel better if it was 42.5. Like, hey, it makes sense. The
Right.
36.5 is throwing me off. It is.
Honestly, I'm playing over 36.5. I'd rather lose on that and just say the game conditions rather than miss an easy layup.
Now,
Like there's a layup in front of us, I'll take it.
There is, and it feels like it is on that one. Rushing yards today. We know they're going to be handing the football off a lot because why? It's windy conditions. Am I wrong to think, again, where some of the stuff's like, okay, good pass rush, that means it might be a little bit harder on the quarterback. Like Brock Purdy, 10.5. He's going to be under siege today a lot because that pass rush is ridiculous. I think he can get there, but if I'm looking at myself and saying, all right, which way do I want to go in this game? McCaffrey always gets the carries, Tom. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you right now, pass rush attempts, McCaffrey, 18.5, he's going over that today. I don't know if he's going to get 68 yards. He will get 19 carries today.
He should. And do we want to factor in what we saw from the 49ers last, where Purdy was terrible? And Shanahan's just like, hey, we're on the road against a good defense. We got shitty conditions with the weather. Let's just get in here and get out with a win, no matter how ugly it is. And that means CMC, you got to do your part. Not that he's not touched the ball 20 times a game already, but him doing that is very realistic just because Purdy's coming off such a bad game and they don't want him dropping back against Myles Garrett.
Now, here's an interesting one because, again, some people, we get scared off. The experts are still expecting, Tom, let's call it 5 touchdowns in this game, or 4 touchdowns and a couple field goals. And also understand this, too. They're not kicking field goals, Tom, at 45 yards on 4th and 3. Nobody's doing that today, which, again, helps you score more touchdowns. You look at the touchdown market, like McCaffrey minus 130, of course, he's always going to be a favorite, and 130 is like a steal. But again, how many options do we have or chances to score a touchdown would it be? Kittle, 2-1. Jennings, 3-1. Pearsall, plus 430. You see where I'm going with this, Tom? Like, if we're expecting 4+ touchdowns in this game, somebody's catching one of those.
It's Kittle and Jennings. Like, those are just a very clear range. The fact that they're both over 2-1 is unbelievable. So you don't want to play McCaffrey, totally fine, minus 130. It is what it is. But, man, Kittle and Jennings caught one last week, and I wouldn't play Pearsall. I mean, I would almost rather play Brian Robinson at plus 600 before I play Jennings or Pearsall. But Kittle and someone else, I think you're in a really good spot. And it's just one of those things, Diane, where it's like, if it doesn't come through, so be it. But I think you made the right play.
Correct. Yes. Sometimes that's all it comes down to where, again, look, I don't want to take anybody in those weather conditions. Well, then the line would be 13.5 as the total. If you don't want to take, it's 35.5, which again, math on 35 points is 5 touchdowns. So it would take at that point right here. Let's get to another one here, Tom. Minnesota and Seattle at 4:00 slate. Numbers been going higher all day long and all week long. 7.5s, they're now 12.5s and 12s across the board. 41.5 is a total. Darnold in this offense, I think they kick it in gear, Tom. And what you see, too, is when they're at home, they score. And also a really undrafted quarterback on the road with that crowd environment, I don't know where we go with Minnesota. Now, having said that, I don't really know if it's a downgrade from what we've been getting from J.J. McCarthy. He looks like the worst quarterback in football, but I can't put my money on Brosmer. But if I'm going to ask you, can I steal yards in this game with J.J.? Like, they're going to throw the football. Can I steal a cheap number with him, or is it just, Donnie, just go Seattle side of it? Points, spread, touchdown passes. Like, what is it here in this game?
McCarthy's been terrible, and not getting the ball to your best receiver with Justin Jefferson is if he literally can't do it. And listen, if Brosmer comes out here and is at least capable, and listen, they could lose the game by 10 points, 14 points, doesn't matter. If he throws for 200 yards, I know his props like 170 or 180, but if he throws the ball for 200 yards and Justin Jefferson has 80 yards, that's an improvement. That is an improvement compared to where you had from McCarthy. And I think they would have to stick with Brosmer at that point. So I'd be willing to trust a 59.5 number on Justin Jefferson, knowing that the game plan is Seattle's going to score 24 points. We have to keep up with them, and it has to go to Justin Jefferson. And this is going to be telling. This is either a game plan issue or it's a quarterback issue. I don't think it's a Justin Jefferson issue.
By the way, they just price it. It's funny because books, again, they're not here to give away money, but it's Jackson Smith and Jig, but 97.5. It's like, he probably gets it by halftime, but it's so high that the optics are terrible here. I do think he gets that, but Tom, Cooper Kupp, 30.5. Rashid Shaheed, they haven't been able to get him deep on a shot yet today. He's 23.5. I think there's opportunities to beat that secondary today, and I think one of those two, if I gave you one of those two, Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed, who's the guy for you on that low number?
The answer is Barner.
AJ Barner. Whoa, AJ, 27.5. All right.
AJ Barner stepping into a decent role. Like, they traded for Rashid Shaheed. They have done literally zero with him. Yeah. Cooper Kupp, I think, is fine, but I would choose Barner before those guys.
Barner catches 4 of them if he gets them. It's a plus 120 price. Rushing props in this game. Always tough sometimes to deal with Seattle because it is a two-headed monster in the backfield. Walker's 65.5, Charbonnet at 32.5. So obviously the more majority of that two-headed monster goes to Kenneth Walker. But are we looking from a 39.5 or 27.5 side from that running back position in Minnesota? Because your game plan isn't to throw 35 times for Brosmer. It's just not. Are we looking at any running backs in this game?
I think Walker's fine.
Yeah.
He's starting to see the more of the lion's share of the split between him and Charbonnet. It's becoming like a 60-40, somewhere around there. The touchdowns haven't been there for Kenneth Walker. If anyone's a fantasy player out there, that he just hasn't been scoring. But I think this is the spot for Kenneth Walker to get right and really have a big game at home. I will say that Kenneth Walker is very popular today on DK DFS.
I like it today. I have one of parlays, Tom, over 2.5 touchdowns to be scored by Seattle today. I think they do well, and I think they do well in short fields. I don't know how many yards we're getting, but I just can't see Minnesota, Tom, those 13-play, 80-yard drives with a rookie quarterback. I think there's going to be a lot of 3-and-outs and a lot of good field position here. Pittsburgh and Buffalo, brought it right up on the screen here, Tom. Windier conditions, not as bad as what we're going to see in Cleveland, but sustained around 15 miles an hour throughout the game. 32-degree temperatures as the line number drops here throughout the evening. Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, a 3-point line, Tom. Here's what the questions are going to be. Last time we saw Buffalo, they couldn't protect Josh Allen. Now they're down both of their tackles in this game against a pretty good pass rush. I don't know how much those wide receivers can make one-on-one plays down the field while Josh is under pressure. But then we have Aaron Rodgers, Tom, 3 fractures in his wrist, who can't take a snap under center, which hurts their play-action game and should be able to help Jaylen Warren. I like the Steelers in this game, but I have a feeling if I take the Steelers and go, what the hell, man? I can't. Like, the Steelers' offense, not a big play threat, jumbo tight ends, decent running game. I don't think we get 45 points in this game. I don't.
I don't either. And it's a good point about the play calling, about what the Steelers are going to do or what they're not able to do based on the Rodgers health. And does that, like, how much does that change their play calling of what they should be expected to do?
Yeah.
So is immediately my mind is Warren or Gainwell in the receiving game, where they're going to be, they can't run it at a high rate. The play action's not going to be there. It's going to be taking it at a shotgun, and it's going to be those quick screens to the flat. That's where my mind goes of Gainwell and or Warren having big days receiving wise.
Like he can't hold the ball in the pocket. Like when he's running around for it, like if he gets tackled, he's smashing that wrist again. So I just figured you're right about this. Snap, quick screens, get rid of the football. I can't extend plays like I used to. And also, having two hands on the football, man, you're going to be in the pocket getting
Oh,
bone crushed by a pretty good pass rush that they're just going to be swinging at your wrists the entire time. And you can't be, hey, let me hold it to it. You can't do that. It's not going to happen. But you do look at some of these numbers, Tom. Darnell Washington, 16.5. Austin, 27.5. Jonnu, 16.5. Freiermuth, 19.5. Gainwell, 17.5. It's like everybody's low outside of DK, and I don't even like DK. Where would you go in this? Is it just the dumps to the tight end? Like, give me Freiermuth for 20, and all of a sudden Jonnu Smith has 20 yards instead.
Again, this might be the spot where, listen, no one wants to, like you said, like how the hell did you bet on the Steelers and bet on Rodgers? But it's the spot where it's like I might just trust three of them on smaller units. I might just trust Freiermuth, Gainwell, Warren, and just hope that they come through. I don't want to trust Darnell Washington. Jonathan Smith's fine. I would not play DK's number at 48. Like, if he ends up with 60, I'm not going to be shocked, but I'd rather just take some super low numbers and just hope that two of them come through.
Yeah, because he like rushing props there. Because I do like the way they use Gainwell. Even like they do like Wildcats with the guy now, which they are going to do that because you're not going to be under center all the time. Yeah, they need to. Warren, 60.5 yards. How do we feel, though? Because the MO is, well, you're going to be able to run the ball against the Steelers. 82.5 is a lot when that's going to be a stacked box and without your two tackles who will help you run block, and they're not going to be there.
Right. So I was actually talking with some of my friends earlier this week about this, and we were looking back at the Buffalo game from last week when Josh Allen took 8 sacks. Looking at TJ Watt's sack prop, which is something that I rarely, if ever, do. Yeah. TJ Watt's only minus 130 for a sack. So you have Buffalo, who's missing their best offensive lineman. How does that affect the run game?
8 times last game, too? How many times did he get sacked?
8 against the Texans.
Yep.
So I think trusting the run game for Buffalo is fine. I don't think they want Josh Allen dropping back against TJ Watt. That's what I really think this comes down to.
Here's my double up, Tom, for
Cook and Allen.
Cook and Allen, both plus money. Give me that. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, if you will, for the Steelers for me to pick a double up prop. DK could get there, yes. I don't know what I'm getting out of Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not going to get the best out of him because he can't line up under there and change the plays because he's not going to take too many snaps there, and we'll see how he goes. Las Vegas taking on Los Angeles today, and that's the Chargers, Tom. 42.5 down to 40. From the numbers I'm looking at, the sharpest under of the week is coming in on this game, and it's hard to try to determine why because of how bad Vegas is. But you take a look at the numbers, 8.5, Tom, to 9.5 to 10s across the market. The Chargers are rested. Vegas is terrible. But they're actually telling us this could be one of those games like 28-6, Tom, where like Las Vegas doesn't move the football.
They haven't been able to move the football. They fired Chip Kelly, their offensive coordinator. Greg Olson takes over as Raiders OC for the 3rd time in his career, which I just don't understand. Herbert's passing TD prop is 1.5, and it's minus 120 to the over.
Yes.
If the Raiders, I said this week in and week out, if the Raiders score more than 17 points in the game, I'm going to be surprised. Like, I think their ceiling is 14, maybe 17. So the Chargers should be scoring 24 at a minimum against this defense, which has been diced apart by everyone. So give me the Chargers to score at least 24. 2 of them come in the air by Herbert. Yeah. And they maybe score another one on the ground. They have a pick. Anything could happen because the Raiders are so terrible. But give me Herbert having a big game. They're coming off a bye. They need to have a good performance.
Yeah, actually, like if you're looking at Russian props, so the Kamani Vidal 66.5. Is Hampton back today? Is he expected to be back? No. Okay, good. So that leaves him as the lead dog. Herbert's actually a very good scrambler. And when I look at like the one thing that Vegas does have is a decent pass rush because of one guy, Max Crosby. I think he can run for that as well. But I was real excited for this over at the beginning of the week, and I sort of started to peel back because, again, it's not because the Chargers have a bad offensive line but dominant weapons all over the place. They should score against that whack secondary. But I just worry about, like, 6 points at the half for Vegas, 2 field goals. Like, this is exactly what I thought it would be, so that's what it is for me. Any thoughts on the night game tonight, Tom? Quick. Denver
this is a spot where the defense for the Commanders is terrible. If Bo Nix is going to have any sort of positive games, like it has to start here with Sutton getting some big yards.
There you go. Well, that'll do it for today, Tom. Best of the battle. I'm telling you, if I go sides today for the people out here, I like Houston getting the 3 points. I like the Rams at the 9.5. I think they absolutely smoke it out. And then also I like Cleveland getting the 5.5 points in this game, and also the Pittsburgh Steelers getting 3. What are you liking today, last for the people out here?
Yeah, I like Houston. I think they have a big game. I like the Herbert over 2.5, 1.5 passing touchdowns. And I like Baker Mayfield under 32.5 attempts.
There we go. Another Sunday. We're back tomorrow, Tom. Monday Night Football. New England taking on New York. Dart and they here. Like to see that total around 46.5 and a touchdown favorite. So that'll do it for today. We'll catch you guys tomorrow night for another edition here. 30 minutes to kick off.